I say that everybody has a story to tell, and all of us have that story. You have your story to tell, I have my story to tell. I grew up in this part of the country. I was born in Selma, Alabama, the first of 4 children born to Preston Sexton and Ruby Lee Sexton. My father was 22 years older than my mother. My father had lost his father and mother when he was 10 years old. And so he was put at homes, first with an uncle and aunt. It didn't work. Then to the Alabama Home for Boys. That didn't work. When he was 16, he was able to get out, joined a carnival. Got in trouble with the law in West Virginia. Went to prison in West Virginia, Moundville, West Virginia. Stayed there till he was 27 years old. When he got out of prison, he started roaming the country and met a young lady, half his age, who was working as a waitress in a place where he liked to eat, in Rockwood, Tennessee. And that little lady had had to leave home when she was 11 and be on her own until that particular moment when she was about 18. They decided after 3 weeks they'd get married. Long courtship. And they left one night after she had finished her shift, drove through the state of Georgia, stopped at a justice of the peace who performed a wedding ceremony, and then he drove on to Alabama, across the Alabama River, and called his family that he had left to come and meet his new bride. 2 years later, they had their first child, that's me, and then my brother and 2 sisters. We moved everywhere because my father was a gambler, always trying to make money the wrong way. Finally, his health began to fail, and he wound up running beer joints, and so I grew up in one of them. The last one we had was down on the Calderwood Highway in Blount County, where Blount County and Monroe County intersect. It was called the Country Club. Right where the road stops, you turn left and go up toward Fontana. Now they have the Dragon there, you know, you can go up the mountains. But my Sunday routine was to get up late in the morning, go down, and with my brother and 2 sisters to help clean the dance floor, and put money in the jukebox, play our favorite songs, eat the pickled duck eggs, or either throw them at one another, potato chips, Cokes, and 7-Ups, until about 12:15, and my dad would say, "Here they come." You couldn't open a beer joint on Sunday, but every Sunday, about 12:15, it would start. At the back door here, the cars would start lining up with Bibles on their dash, white shirts and ties. They were coming from church to buy the beer. And we'd sit on the beer case and open the beer, and they'd call out, "I need so much Pabst Blue Ribbon," or whatever the beer they wanted. And we made a little human line, and we'd pass it to my dad, and he'd sell it out the back door. And with every sale, he'd turn to us and tell us what kind of people he thought those people were. And there were not nice words in that conversation. That's what I grew up believing that Christian people were going to be like, except for the fact that I had 2 great aunts in Selma, Alabama, who, of course, in those days never had a TV, had some radio, but who liked to sit in the living room at night and talk. And I sat at their feet. I learned to love old people at a very young age. And they'd tell me about their lives. They loved the Lord. They had an uncle who lived with them who had lost one leg in the Civil War. His name was J.O. Wright. And they'd tell me Uncle J.O.'s stories too. And they were all stories about God and how God took care of them and saw them through life. I lived in 19 different places by the time I was in the 3rd grade. But I started school in Chattanooga, Tennessee, went to school 6 weeks in the 1st grade, 2 different schools. I still remember the teachers' names. And what a special thing it was to go to school, to be away from home for a little while. During that time, my mother had her 2nd nervous breakdown. My father was gone, and I had to nurse her back to health as a 7-year-old boy. Now, with all that in mind, no one knew what was going on in my home or heart except my family. We finally moved from Chattanooga, and we moved to a little place called Greenback, Tennessee. Later, I came back there to pastor. But in Greenback, Tennessee, we were to go to school in the second grade. We hadn't finished but 6 weeks in the first grade, but we were going to go. And on the first day going to school, my father turned around to the back seat. He only had one eye, so every time he would talk to us, he had to turn to talk. And he said, "You're not going to school today. We're hiding from the law, and I can't give your address to anyone." And they were going to ask me your name and address, and so we're not going to go to school today. As a matter of fact, we're not going to go to school this year. You can just stay home all year. My brother and I were so excited. We got home. He announced to my mother, "These boys are not even going to go to school all year." And sure enough, we found stuff to do and things to get into for a solid year. By the time that year passed, we moved to Maryville, Tennessee. And of course, all of you know where Maryville is. Jane Chittister's here. Jane's my dear friend, and she works with Senator Alexander as a personal assistant. And they've been a great encouragement to me. Lamar Alexander grew up in the same town I grew up in, and I appreciate his friendship and what he's done for our country. But anyway, we moved to Maryville on 114 South Houston Street, right across from Maryville High School. I was to be a third grader, but I hadn't been to school in the second grade, only 6 weeks in the first grade. And I remember the morning my mother got my brother and myself and said, "Let's go, we're going to school." And we went to school at Sam Houston School. And the principal had a nickname, we didn't know it then. His name was Sleepy Howard. But anyway, we walked into the office, my mother with two boys. The girls weren't old enough to go at the time. She had someone watching the girls. And Mr. Howard said, "What grade are these boys in?" My mother looked at us and looked back at him and said, "Third." Then we looked at her and looked at him and thought, "Third?" Anyway, so they put us in the third grade, both of us. My brother and I, though he's 13 months younger, started school at the same time because of my birth date in Alabama. When I was supposed to start school, I turned 6 too late. So he and I started together. Well, he lasted about 3 weeks in the third grade. They put him back in Miss Watson's class in the second grade. But I stayed in the third grade. And that was a great turning point in my life. All of us want to be used of God to make a difference in someone's life. And there was a woman by the name of Miss Burns, tall, beautiful, redheaded, to my knowledge never married, who took a great interest in me. She's the first teacher who really took that kind of interest and had the time to do it for the whole year. I still can remember this day things she said to me and how she would give approval for things I had completed. She's a teacher who found out I had some dyslexia. And I wasn't stupid, but I just learned a different way. And she discovered that and showed me how to deal with it all the way back in the third grade. Ms. Burns made such an impression on my life. I was in New York City area when she died, serving there. And we came 700 miles back to her funeral just to say thank you, that she made a difference. I remember my father taking me down to the courthouse in Blount County to sign me up for baseball. He was a baseball fan. His favorite team was the Chicago Cubs. And just amazingly, when I went up, he couldn't make the flight up the steps and all. I went up and he told me where to go. I went in and signed up for the Little League, and they had a 3x5 card box, and they just took the next card out to tell you which team you're on. We had a National League teams and American League teams, and Maryville is big stuff, baseball park, all of that. Wouldn't you know it, I became a Cub. And my dad was so excited when I came back to the car, running all the way back from where they'd give me the little card and tell me when to practice, to tell him I was going to be on the Cubs. And he immediately went into this thing about who played third base for the Chicago Cubs, who was the shortstop for the Chicago Cubs, who was the second base, first base, who were the best pitchers, who played the outfield. And he said, "Just think, you get to play for the Cubs." Well, by the time he finished with me, I thought I was in the big leagues, you know. But I met a man by the name of Ralph Carpenter. Ralph Carpenter was the first man I had the opportunity to go in the home of who was a Christian. His home was different. In our home, there was smoking every day, profanity every day. My parents were good parents. They just didn't smoke as much as some people, or didn't cuss as badly as some people. But anyway, he had a different kind of home, and he influenced my life greatly. I met Harry Brooks on the Cubs. Harry Brooks was on the Cubs. He was a little older. His sister, Sandra, was the queen of the Cubs. I have a little picture when I was about 10 years old there with the Cubs. And Ralph Carpenter made a big difference in my life. A big difference in my life. Then there was a medical doctor by the name of Dr. Howard in Maryville, a pediatrician my mother took us to. And he said one day when we were in the office, all these kids, and he said, where do they go to Sunday school? My mother said, they don't. He said, well, I'm a Sunday school teacher at the First Christian Church in Maryville. Why don't you let them come to my class? That's where I got my first Bible, from Dr. Howard's class. What a great man he was. And he is. He's still living, to my knowledge. Made a difference in my life. I went to Maryville Junior High School after Sam Houston School, and things were getting worse in my home. My father died while I was in Maryville Junior High School on the Easter break. He died on Easter Sunday. I didn't tell anybody because he and my mother were divorced, and I didn't want anybody to know that. Finally, when Coach Ted Wilson found it out, he was very disturbed. He was a fine Christian man. And I got so discouraged at Maryville Junior High School just because of all the domestic things going on, I decided to transfer to Everett High School. And that's the day I met Robert Davis. My mother walked me in the office in the 9th grade, and Mr. Davis looked at my mother. Her name was Mrs. Sexton, and this boy's name, and she told him. And he said the kindest thing. He said, you have the responsibility of raising these children by yourself. He could have said lots of things and pried into her life in a way that would have been, I think, interrupting and rude, but in the kindest manner, he said, and I remember his words, you have the opportunity and responsibility of raising these kids by yourself? And she said, yes. And he said, I'm going to help you. I didn't know then how much help he was going to be. I wasn't there long until he asked me to stay after school. He didn't want me to get in trouble. He had me stay after school. And I said, I'm going to miss everything. He said, that's the point. All the buses will be gone. All the fighting will be over. All my friends will be gone on their buses back home. He said, that's just the point. So I had to report every day when the bell rang to his office. And I sat there. I don't know how many weeks it went on, but he never said a word to me. Never a word. But then finally, he told me, this is your last day. It was on a Friday to have to come to the office. I think everything's settled down now. And I got up to leave, thanked him, and he said, you have tremendous potential, and God wants to do something special with your life. My mother never had an opportunity to go to school, maybe the 3rd grade. I don't know how far, no further than that. My father didn't have that opportunity. But my mother would always say to me, honey, God has something special for your life. God has something special for your life. And he was the second person I ever heard say that. Robert Davis became a lifetime friend. 40 years after I graduated from high school, I conducted his funeral. He became a leader in Blount County, the Blount County mayor, the executive, after being principal of the high school. He sort of singled me out from all the thousands of students he had. Bobby, his son, who was the chairman of the Republican Party in Tennessee at one time, said, we used to be so jealous of you because he put your picture in our living room. And my wife and I went back for our 20th high school reunion, and I went to see Mr. Davis. He made such a loving impression on my life. And so when I came into his office, he asked me to come by around his desk, that executive desk in Blount County Courthouse, and had me sit at his desk. He said, now I want you to turn and look at the wall. And I turned and looked at the wall, and there hung my picture in the mayor's office, the executive's office. And he said, Clarence, I want you to know something. Every day for all these years, I have prayed for you every day. What a difference he made in my life. What a difference. And that's what it's all about. You know, you can go through life and live your 25,500 days in the prescribed time most people live. But what kind of difference are you going to make in someone's life? It's always local. And when you make it, it's always long-lasting. And I think of sometimes where I would be. I would never met my beautiful wife. She and I have been married 50 years now. I would never have been on this journey, started this college. Never. I would never have found real purpose for my life if other people had not invested in me. And this meeting is intended to bring that to your attention. You know, you may be successful in one field or another, but the greatest success is to have made a difference in someone's life. That's the greatest success there is. I am very grateful for the opportunity I've had and what little ability I have, but great opportunity God has given me and the tremendous influence. No one in my family had ever finished high school. Really, they'd never finished the 8th grade. It was a great thing to finish high school, then to finish college, University of Tennessee, then to finish seminary with a Doctor of Ministry's degree. But all of that is because individuals invested in my life. So we started in 1978 with a dream in my heart to have a college. And the college to be an instrument to make a difference in people's lives. And I want you to get behind what's going on at Crown College because it'll be good for you. Almost 350 employers in the greater Knox County area have employed our students. That's no small thing. It's a blue-collar, working-class college. I brought a few things with me just to share with you. In the next 10 years, through student loans in colleges, taxpayers will be out $170 billion. That's how they're going to go to school. Someone told me the other day, they just registered for a school and the tuition was over $40,000 a year. And I said, how are you going to do that? They said, oh, I just have to pay $2,000. The government's paying the other $38,000. And you check into it and you'll find that's true. The most powerful person in a college or university campus is the person who can qualify the kid to get government money. Now, we have a fully accredited college. We qualify for all Title IV things, but we do not take one dime from the federal government. Some people are shocked at that. We're already behind in America. We're already behind in America with $1 trillion unpaid student loan debt. And with another $170 billion from taxpayers, some of you are involved in politics. I want to tell you, it doesn't take a genius to know that cannot be sustained much longer. It cannot. So we have a private school. A private school is an independent school. A private school sets its own goals. A private school sets its own policies. A private school is privately funded. Now, we keep education to a minimum, but we qualify academically in every way that is excellent. At least that's what we've been told by our accreditors who have an international accrediting agency that's recognized not only in America but around the world. And colleges like Bob Jones University and others are accredited by the same accrediting agency. And so we're happy about that, but we have to raise the money. None of our kids go to school free. We have 3,000 graduates now. They're on every continent and every state. They're working. They worked while they were in school. Even if they don't have a job off campus, they have student employment here, and we work with them in their student employment to compensate on their school bill a certain amount of money where they can pay the rest. And we have to raise every year about $1,500,000 every year. That may not seem like a lot of money, but it's a lot of money. And we do that to help students. Nothing here belongs to me. It belongs to the Lord, and we have a board, and of course, everything you'd find legitimate about a college, this is a full-fledged thing. When I started Crown College in 1991, after praying and working since 1978 to get it going, when we started Crown College in 1991, I contacted the Higher Education Commission in the state of Tennessee, and I said, we want to have a full-fledged college. I mean, give degrees and all things legitimate and approved. So they came over and they started with 19 specific things we had to do to meet or exceed to be able to have a college, to give bachelor's and associate's degrees. We met or exceeded every one of those, and we've been working hard and harder at it all the time. So I want you to know about Crown College. I want you to, I hope, have an appreciation for Crown College. I want you to look at that poster. It's a poster. There's about 4 of them on your table. You can share it with 2 different people. I want you to look at it just a moment. We've had to choose a name, The Crown College. Do we have them here at this top table, please? All right. Good. Here and here. Someone have them here? Good. 4 of them at least. Thank you. I want you to be able to see one, okay? You're sharing it with someone. I want you to be able to see it. We had to choose a name. We chose the Crown College. Crown College represents the best in all things. And we unashamedly say is a distinctive Christian college, a distinctive Christian college. We make no apology for that. It's a private school, privately funded, and we do not come under any of the hiring requirements by the Federal Department of Education, meaning all of our people are qualified with terminal degrees and whatever degrees are necessary in their field, but we do not come under the entrance and hiring qualifications to meet the new LGBT agendas, that type of thing, because we could not do that and keep our Christian position. Now let me say, with all sincerity, we would never mistreat anyone. I pastor a church. I've been a pastor and served in church for nearly 50 years. We wouldn't mistreat anyone. I don't care who they say they are or what gender they may claim to be or what their lifestyle may be. We believe that God loves all of them. We ought to love all of them. But we do believe that God created men and women. And we work at lovingly, compassionately, trying to explain the truth to people. God helping us. And we've had a whole lot of progress in that matter. Our theme is to take the high road. The high road is not choosing between the good and the bad. Anyone can do that. It's always choosing between the good and the best, and always choosing the best. And that's a philosophy we try to promote with our college students and our young people. I put a little word on this particular poster about East Tennessee, what a beautiful place it is. And then we have schools within the college. We have the School of Ministry, so we train people and qualify people with an accredited degree in one of these fields. There's a 1-year certificate for Bible that people come get. There are people who send their kids here before they go to medical school or some other type of specialized school. They come here because they want them to get a Bible foundation. We have a young student now graduating from a medical school who came here for 1 year just to get the Bible foundation before he jumped into everything else. And we have pastoral ministry, music ministry, missions, evangelism, youth ministry. Then in the School of Education, elementary education, secondary education, and the secondary with majors in biological science, business, English, history, math, music, and physical science. So you can be an education secondary major with a major in one of those fields or double majors. We started a School of Business. It just makes business sense to have people trained in business. You can't live without having some knowledge about business, and we think it's very important that every student in our school have something. And so there are interdisciplinary studies that some kids have to take, even though that's not their school. So in the business, we offer office management and business applications and small business and entrepreneurship. We like to teach kids how to start a small business. We think that's the backbone of American business, and so we work very hard at that with all kinds of projects and things, and we're working harder at it all the time. We've got some kids who have been very successful, done amazing things, and they've seen some models here that have helped them tremendously. Then we recognize the need of a trade school. So we have a fully approved trade school, trades and technology. And right now we're teaching auto diesel, HVAC. We have a cosmetology school, second to none. And coming soon, welding, residential construction, aviation, electrical, plumbing, and agriculture. And the number one thing in the next 10 years for the whole world to be concerned about is food supply. And we want to be involved in that. I think it's the Christian thing to do. And so then we have a graduate school and seminary. That means our education people can go on and get a graduate degree in their field of education. And the ministry, the Master of Ministry, the Master of Missiology, and the Master of Divinity. The school is accredited, it's affordable, it's advancing. Our tuition here, room and board, everything, is a little over $10,000 a year. That's impossible. It is impossible. When I was a student at the University of Tennessee, I paid $125 a quarter. Anybody remember those days? And you could not raise tuition. You could not raise tuition except by the cost of living. Think of that. And so maybe the next semester or the next year you might go, and quarters back then, you might have a quarter you paid $145, you see. But then the education department took the ceiling off of it, and they decided to get so involved in education. You have elite schools that charge astronomical amounts of money. I had a little note here. You wouldn't believe it. I'll read it to you. It makes no sense. But the average tuition and fees at private national universities jumped to 179% in the last years. Out-of-state tuition and fees at public universities rose 226% since 1995. 226%. In-state tuition and fees at public national universities grew the most, increasing a staggering 296%. Think of that. In the last 25 years, we've tried to provide this kind of quality education for young people from all walks of life, from all over America, from every state, many foreign countries, for the low cost with an excellent academic education and a practical working knowledge at the lowest possible cost. I want to keep it that way. So there's something you can do. You can contribute to the Student Scholarship Fund. Some of you actually have businesses that could get a tax credit, and you just filled out your taxes, you know about all that, by making a tax-deductible gift to Crown College, to our Student Scholarship Fund. So I want you to take this envelope. Would you find it now, please? You don't have to do this today, but I want you to find this envelope, and I want you to consider being a part of investing in eternity, making a difference, my gift to the Student Scholarship Fund at Crown College. And look, let me tell you, we may have problems from time to time. If we do, we deal with them. But our students can go into some place and they say, "You're from Crown College?" They say, "Yes." They say, "You don't even have to fill out the application. Just give us the necessary information. We'll hire you." That's the kind of reputation our people have. Now, this might have something to do with it. If a student loses a job because of their problems, if they did something not doing the job, or there's something immoral, or something, they stole something or whatever, which has happened on the rarest occasions with thousands of students. But if they do, they're dismissed immediately from school. They can't attend school if they've been fired from their job. Now you say, that's cruel. No, that's not cruel. That's not cruel at all, because we have another group of students, 300 plus freshmen coming in the fall of 2017, who need to find jobs in the same places they worked. So they've got to leave a good reputation so the next crop can go there and get a job. It's the only thing that makes sense. We live in an undisciplined time, in an undisciplined nation, and the breeding grounds for so much of what you and I don't agree with is taking place in the college community. We all know that. It's like the elephant in the room we don't want to talk about, you know. And I'm a graduate of a great university, the University of Tennessee. But I certainly don't approve everything that goes on there. But I can say in this place, and we have students go there, of course. There are graduate students going there. That's great. But we need private colleges like Crown College, because once they're gone, that element of education will never appear again in our country. How vital is it to be able to have freedom of speech? How vital is it to be able to have the opportunity to have decency and morality applauded? How vital is that? So we're all about the American way of life. And you are too. Have a part in it. Support it. God bless you for it. I want you to have one of these. Did you get that? It's just a little personal piece that has, I think there's 35 books now that are available here on these other small books. I want to give you something, and there's a booklet, Solid Answer booklet series. I want to give all of you this book. This is a book that I wrote not long ago on the stewardship of life. It's about our response to God. You have a life, God gave it to you. You believe that? It's a gift from God. So our stewardship of our life is our response to God. So I want you to have a copy of this book. It's waiting for you. They have them at the counter in the bookstore just across the hall here. And then if you'd like to have a Bible study, you may be in a Bible study group or something. There are 35 different books here you can choose. The most recent one is a book I wrote on the book of James, the New Testament. And James is the pastor of the first church in Jerusalem. He was a brother of Jesus, a child of Mary and Joseph after the virgin birth of Christ. And he was a pastor, the first pastor of a New Testament church. And so the book of James is about the expectations, the true expectations for Christian life in the first century. That's a great pattern, isn't it? And the book is written on that approach. You may want to get a copy of that, or one other book may appeal to you. But take that with you. I want you to know they've been told over there you can have any book and the Bible study materials that go with it if you want them. There's a teacher's guide, a student guide in the book. So all of you can have it. And then all of you are going to get this book as a gift, and the other book is a gift too. I want to be doing anything I can to help you for one reason. Listen, I want you to help others. I got a helping hand. My story may not even be unique, but it's my story. And God has been so good to me. And the way God was good to me is put the Miss Burns, the Ralph Carpenters, the Ted Wilsons, the Verner Lawhorns, the Robert Davises in my life. It wasn't just pity. It wasn't pity at all. I started college at Hiawassee College and had $5. I never missed paying a payment. Finished college and seminary without any debt. A lot of people had a hand in it. I don't even know who they were, but I worked too. Get involved in getting your life invested in someone else's life. And one of the best ways to do it is to contribute to this student scholarship fund. We will not waste your money. We will apply it to students who are worthy, trustworthy, who are working hard, and they're making contributions. We will not help anybody have a free ride, no one, because it does not build strong character. Agreed? Good. Thank you for listening. Let's pray together, may we?